For more, let's bring in Dr. Edmund Ghareeb. He's a senior scholar at the Palestine Center. Some describing this as a significant breakthrough. How do you view it?
Clearly, I think this is a very important breakthrough. It is also a win for China and China's role as a global mediator. But I think what's significant in terms of the Palestinians, there have been several attempts in the past to try to reconcile Hamas and as well as some other factions of the Palestinian factions together to have new elections, to create a unified government. Sometimes there were at least declarations of agreement, but they didn't last very long and they didn't succeed. I think the situation is changing now. There is a growing recognition that Israel, especially after the Knesset declaration and vote, that they are not going to leave the West Bank or Gaza for that matter, and that there is no real avenue, path to achieve a Palestinian state, as has been the goal and the hope of many countries in the world. And but what we are seeing here is, I think, also it reflects the changing realities. I think the positions that Israel has been taking, the fact that the United States government has not been able to either to bring about a peaceful settlement and the creation of a Palestinian state next to the Israeli state, or to end the ceasefire so far, bring about a ceasefire between the Palestinians and the Israelis in Gaza. I think there is a recognition among the Palestinians on all sides that it's time to bring about reconciliation, to have a unity government. And of course, we'll have to wait and see if it will succeed. But I think this is a very significant development. It's a historic moment in many ways for the Palestinians. And I think it was significant what the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi mentioned when he talked about the need to talk about Palestinian liberation and the need to have an international conference and not only one country to try to achieve peace and reconciliation and create a two-state solution. So that, I think, is an important step forward. And of course, we'll have to wait and see how it's done. Yet, I think it's very significant.
Yeah, well, you know what's interesting, Edmund, the foreign minister describing this as a historic moment for the cause of Palestine's liberation. I want to talk to you about, you know, we've seen so many negotiations back and forth, Anthony Blinken traveling here and there. But as somebody pointed out, you know, while this is going on, China was quietly working on the impossible. There wasn't a lot of press in advance of this. These groups brought together and meaningful talks, and they came to an agreement which, in many respects, as you pointed out, kind of impossible.
Well, clearly, I think this is a very difficult task. There were several efforts, and there were also some other declarations as well, yet they did not succeed. And but I think right now, because of what's going on the ground, because of what's happening in Gaza, the destruction that's taking place, the deaths of tens of thousands of innocent civilians, I think also the fact that what the Israeli government, this right-wing government, has the policies it has adopted, where it's rejecting any chance of the creation of a Palestinian state next to Israel, I think is putting a lot of pressure on both sides, on Hamas, on the PLO government, the authority in Ramallah, and as well as on other Palestinian organizations, that it's time to unify. It's time for unity. And here, that's where China has succeeded. I mean, China seems to have adopted a new policy, different from the Western policy, where they emphasize peace, the need for peace, the need for reconciliation, the need for development, economic development, and in the case of Palestine, to work towards the creation of a Palestinian state and not to marginalize the Palestinian issue. And this comes after several efforts, the efforts that China made between the Saudis and the Iranians, which was also almost next to impossible. So far, that seems to be succeeding. It has lowered the tension between the two countries, and also it has made efforts to try to bring about an end to the war in Ukraine. That's why this is important. This is a very important step. And I think that we're likely to see, we may see even other meetings taking place in Beijing where China will, in case there are some difficulties between the two parties, mainly Hamas and the PLO authority in Ramallah.
Yeah, Edmund, let me ask you one final question before I let you go. Obviously, all of this is happening with the backdrop that Netanyahu is here in Washington, D.C. to meet with Biden. How does that change the equation at all? How do you think they're going to respond to this?
Well, certainly the Israelis are going to reject it. On the one hand, the United States government, they see this as an effort on the part of China to basically push into a traditionally U.S. area of influence. Nevertheless, I think there was one statement from, I believe it was a State Department spokesman, who said that we support any effort to bring about reconciliation and peace, but the U.S. government's position also has been similar to the Israeli position on the issue of Hamas. Unless we see a change, I think that makes any kind of effort on the part of the U.S. Very difficult. But I think nevertheless, this is an important development, and hopefully it will really lead towards reconciliation and elections and a national unity government for the Palestinians. And hopefully the U.S. and other countries, as we are beginning to see that many countries in the world and the International Court want to see, they felt that the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territory is illegal, and that Israel must pay reparations to the Palestinians and allow the creation of a Palestinian state next to Israel.
Edmund, always great to get your insights. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Good to be with you.